How do we raise resources for one, funding our military? Second, government did cut excise duty on petrol and diesel. There is talk about credit guarantee scheme for MSME. But in your opinion, what more should the government do in ensuring that, one, we maintain our high growth range and also raise resources to fund what Major Gaurav was talking about?
I 100% agree that the strength of the military comes from economic strength, and I must say that generation of that economic strength requires many reforms, and some of them are to some extent stroke of the pen reforms. So, for example, what this has exposed is our energy vulnerability. So to take a step back and to directly answer your question, how do we sustain a high growth rate despite the adverse conditions that we are seeing? Because the moment you are able to sustain a growth rate, your tax collections remain robust, and then there is a surplus, meaning that once the basic expenditure of interest costs, salary, pensions of the government, the so-called essential subsidies are taken care of, whatever surplus you generate after that can then be deployed into discretionary items, which is like defense. Defense itself can create a lot of innovation, a lot of demand. So there is enough there. How do we grow? And I think the core of the problem is that, unlike China, we have not tried to control our own sources of energy. So the only sources of energy we have, like coal, wind, and solar, can be used only in the form of electricity. So if you see, there is an India energy balance report that comes out. If you divide end use of energy and see what percentage is electricity, in China it is upwards of 30%. In India, it is 17 or 18%. So China also is a net importer of oil. It's a net importer of gas. It is deeply vulnerable to food shocks, and which is why it is paranoid and has been stocking up on all of these things. But they've invested. So they did the HVDC lines. They've innovated on power distribution. Last year, China added 543 gigawatts of power capacity. Our total capacity is 520. They did 100 gigawatts of thermal power capacity. So contrary to all of this decarbonization, it is finally that we need the energy. And these grand wars are actually fought on these principles about economic models, about the cost of energy, the availability of energy. The Americans are desperate because their grid can't take renewable energy. So they want to bring down oil and gas prices, which is why the desire to bring Iran to the fold, bring Venezuela to the fold and all that. The point I'm making is that we have not even tried to accelerate electrification. An essential part of doing that is to get the pricing right. We have the cheapest energy in the world, cheapest electricity in the world for households and farmers. And we have the most expensive electricity in the world for industry and commercial. If you are energy short, the first thing you want to do is price it right so it is used carefully. I've been saying to the government repeatedly that, look, it is important that industry gets cheap energy, because then you create jobs so that people can pay for the power themselves instead of just giving free power everywhere. I think this is a great opportunity. So what you were saying was, while it is not really equivalent to two monkeys fighting and the cat eating the roti, but I think the lesson for us is that it is only when our backs are to the wall that we take the tough decisions. I was once listening to the Singapore president. He said, India's tragedy is its large size and its glorious history. So there were 5, 6 of us Indians in the room, and we said, well, large size, glorious history, totally agree. Why is it tragic? He said, this is why tough decisions are never taken. It is only at times like these when you can actually say that, look, we are energy starved. In the 1970s, when Japan faced the first oil shock, you should see how dramatically the energy efficiency improved. Today, per unit of energy, Japan generates 4x the GDP that we do. So we need to improve efficiency. Efficiency comes from better pricing. We need to do pricing reform. We need to accelerate electrification. We need to invest more in defense. And I personally think that just the building of housing, real estate and infrastructure, if we are on the right path, and I think we are, by 2040 or so, we should be a $20 trillion economy, which is about $12,500 per capita. Today, Malaysia is by same ballpark. 81% of Malaysia's capital stock is residential real estate, commercial real estate, and infrastructure. The construction of that is completely in our control. Can we not free up housing? Can we not, like what UP has done, that you free up FSI for hotels? I mean, we have the most expensive tourist destinations in the world. Why not allow more freedom, deregulation? And I think some of these opportunities, this is the right time to actually take those hard calls so that our economy starts to flourish. Once it does, I think everything else falls in place.